From Southern California, this is The Circle of Insight, a show about everything in psychology. Hear the latest in news and views on psychology. Our motto is simple: wherever there is psychology involved, we are there. And now, here's your host of The Circle of Insight, Carlos Vasquez.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We have a wonderful show in store for you. Today, we're going to be talking about the psychology of magic with magician PAUL ROMHANY. Thank you very much for joining us today, Paul.
You're welcome. It's great to be here via Skype.
Via Skype, that's right. PAUL ROMHANY, is that correct?
That's correct. Well done. Yes.
Is from New Zealand. He has been performing magic for over 40 years. He is the editor of Vanish magazine, the largest online magic magazine in the world. He has performed for the royal family of Monaco and actors such as Nicolas Cage. He was awarded recently the Robert Houdin Award. Some consider Robert Houdin the founding father of magic. Well, thank you again for joining us and for helping us understand a little bit more the psychology of magic.
Yeah, you're welcome, because magic really is all about psychology.
Now, we'll dig deeper into that in a minute. First thing I wanted to find out is, why did you choose to get into magic?
Because I love psychology. No.
Well, there you go.
No, I started magic when I don't know what it is. You know, a lot of kids, when they're at a certain age, it's usually about 8 years old, there's a fascination with magic. And it's some kids, both girls and boys, it happens to, they see a magician. Well, for me, for example, I saw a magician when I was 8 years old, and instantly I thought, wow, that just blew my mind. That's what I want to do. And so for me, it was started as a hobby, and I read books. I went to the library, and then I guess it became an obsession. My wife would tell you it's an obsession. I started when I was a kid. I was just fascinated with magic. It just fascinated me. And I grew up watching the television specials and things of Copperfield and Paul Daniels in New Zealand. So, and I think a lot of kids are at that age. That's how it starts.
That's fascinating. Now, does your wife ever ask you for the secrets of the tricks?
She used to help me in the act. There's some funny stories about that. But no, I don't think she really cares. It's got to the point where she knows so much of it now that it takes a lot to impress her.
You made an interesting comment a few seconds ago saying boys and girls are fascinated by magic. And I will explore that a little later, maybe asking you questions about gender differences if you've noticed anything in your magic shows. But before we get to that, why do people love magic so much? They know it's not real, and yet they have this incredible desire to see it. They have so much fun. You can tell by the pictures and by the audiences. Why do you think people love magic?
I think it has a lot to do with why people like to believe in Santa Claus. It's about the inner child, I think, anyway. And it's about taking people on a journey. I do a show. My main show is as Charlie Chaplin. And so it's a one-man show, and I take people on a journey. I always relate magic to Chaplin, because Charlie Chaplin brings out the inner child, and he can always make you smile. So, and that was what made Chaplin's movies so great. And I relate this to magic as well, because in my show, if you look at a Chaplin movie, you go on this journey of highs and lows, and you come away feeling really good. I'm talking about the classic movies, not the old slapsticks he used to do when he first started.
The ones with or without sound?
Without sound. The ones with sound too. The later ones are fantastic too. But like the Gold Rush and so on, those earlier ones. So magic is like that too. And I think a really good magician can take people on a journey. David Copperfield, for example, is fantastic in creating magic vignettes or stories. And so you become connected to magic. You become connected to the story. Magic in itself, I think it has a lot to do with the inner child and people wanting to believe and hope and just a really good feeling. There are magicians. There's all sorts of styles of performers. There are performers who perform magic in a show-off way, and you come away feeling, how did he do that? Or they come off as a smart, look what I can do that you can't do. I don't particularly like that style of magic. My style of magic, and this is what attracts me to magic, and I think this is what connects my audience with what I do, is taking them on a journey and making them feel, as I said, about their inner child and taking them away from whatever's going on. I'd like to share this. A classic example was 9/11. I happened to be working on a cruise ship, and we had just left New York. And, we got the news on the ship, and the whole ship was just devastated because most of those people on that cruise were heading to Bermuda were from New York. So I mean, everyone was in tears, and they asked they asked me to work that night to perform, and it was the hardest gig of my life. But what I learned was that, and I agreed to do it. I mean, I was crying backstage. That's how emotional everybody was. But I went out and did it, and I became Charlie Chaplin, which is what I was doing. And the people that turned up to the show, for that 45 minutes, this is the thing about magic, is that I was able to take them, just take it away for 45 minutes, just stop it. And it was, and I didn't know if it worked or not. People afterwards came up and said, thank you, that's what they needed. Just to turn it off and you know, I mean, I used to go into hospitals. I wrote a book called Laugh Yourself Well, which is about using humor in the workplace. And I used to go into hospitals with cancer patients and sick children, dying children. And I used to use magic as a therapy, well, not a therapy, but to bring families together. I used to do a lot of that. And even to this day, I get emails from people saying, thank you. You know, we remember that time. It was just a moment in time where there's a happy memory. You know,
that's fantastic.
So for me, those are the best gigs of my life. Those are the best jobs I've ever done. I remember doing a show for a young boy that was 5 and he had cancer, terminally ill, and it was for Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he wanted to see David Copperfield. I was the best they could get. Well, this was in New Zealand. I remember doing that. This is going back a long time. I remember doing that show, and that boy was so thankful. He was so appreciative. It was a completely different show than I'd ever done before. It was amazing. And then I went and did a 5-year-old kid's birthday party afterwards, and it was complete opposite. Those little kids were all over the show, and I just wanted to take those kids and say, look at this little boy. You know, he was so appreciative. But so magic has a lot of, I feel it's a wonderful, it's not a gift, but it's something I can share with people. And I used to think, when I was doing this research for my books on laughter in the workplace, I used to think to myself, what am I doing? I'm not giving anything back to the society. And then after my research, I realized, you know what? Humor itself, whether it be in magic or comedy, is actually a really important part of our lives.
That's absolutely true. It's a break from reality when we watch those magic shows. That's what it sounded like it happened over there at 9/11.
Yeah, it was, and it was, and it took a while for it to sink in. But when people started coming up afterwards and saying just thank you, that's what I needed, you know, because the show is full of my Chaplin show is not just all humor; it's a lot of pathos. Chaplin is also about pathos, and so within my magic, I try and incorporate all that. So it's, you know, as I said, it's on a journey. So there's a lot of thought go into it, and a lot of, we talked about before, a lot of psychology goes into it.
Hi, welcome to Adelante. This is Adelante Recovery, and my name is Yvette Kuglin, and I'm part of the staff.
Adelante Recovery Center has helped people in dual diagnosis for 5 years. We accept most PPO insurances and provide luxury accommodations and 24-hour support. To speak with an admissions counselor, call 1-888-242-4450.
A lot of time we don't even know what's wrong with us, and sometimes we need to get away to figure that out. So if you want to go for a little retreat out in Corona Del Mar, which is a confidential location, we're here to help. So we're only a phone call away. Thank you.
So it sounds like your show is almost created like a story, a narrative?
Well, it is kind of. It's a one-man show, if you like, of I come out as Paul and do some comedy magic so the audience gets to know me, maybe 10 minutes. And then they see me physically become Charlie Chaplin. I put the makeup on. I've had people say that's the strongest part of the show because there's a single spotlight on me, and they physically see me go from this to Chaplin. and it's just theatre. It's really great theatre. But, it touches people. And then I go into Chaplin, who the theme of the story is that he's not a magician, but these magical things happened around him. And the thing I love about Chaplin is that the character Chaplin himself, if you look at the movies, and this is about going back to the inner child, Chaplin brings out that inner child in all of us. And he takes time to smell the roses. And I've been studying Chaplin since I was 8. I saw my first Chaplin movie since I was 8. And I think a lot of that has rubbed off into my own life because I don't go around being Charlie Chaplin at all, but I have Chaplin-esque moments where I have learnt to just take time and smell the roses. I have a 3-year-old son who's probably, you can hear him whistling in the background there. That's that whistle. He's upstairs, but if you hear a whistle, that's him. So, you know, now that I have a 3-year-old son, it changes my perspective again, and I can see things through his eyes, especially with magic and so on. It's a wonderful experience.
It's amazing looking through a child's eye. I have a 4-year-old that's similar to your son.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they see. We don't see it.
No, but but being Chaplin as well, it's interesting now that I watch him and I watch Chaplin movies. There's the inner child. I keep going back to that, but that's a thing I'm really big about is that inner child in all of us. That's why I like the theme of Santa Claus, you know, because you want to believe he's real. You want to believe that someone is out there doing good.
So when you do your shows, then are you focused on that kind of message? Is trying to bring out that inner child in the people? Then are you looking for acts? Are you looking for magic tricks that will do that?
I am actually. A lot of it I have a degree in music. That's my background, and for me, music is also therapy. So music, a lot of it. This is a lot of external things tie into the magic. So rather than just coming out and doing a magic trick and you going, hey, I don't know how that works, that's good. I want you to feel something. I want you to be connected. I want you to go away thinking about that and having an experience, because I leave you within something really positive and really good, rather than the feeling that a lot of magicians do of performing a trick and you going, oh boy, I don't know how that's done. But then you don't think about it again. There's nothing you take away from it. I'm very much into that. And that's why I love Chaplin so much. And I do a lot of research and thinking goes in behind what I put in the show, because I want my audience to connect with me. I want them to feel good at the end of the day. That's it. And just, you know, have good vibes and good energy. And if I'm what I have found is in a variety show, if I'm in a show with other magicians or other entertainers, and even if they're vanishing helicopters and doing big things, people go away talking about Chaplin because it's somehow they connect with him. Just like Chaplin in the movies, he connected with everybody from the street people to the, you know, the rich and famous, whatever. Chaplin on some level connected to everybody, and that's why he was so and to this day he's so well known. And so I tie a lot of that into my own performance too.
That's really, it sounds really fascinating. I wish you could watch the show.
You can online.
Well, there you go.
YouTube, yeah, there's some stuff on YouTube. I have my show on YouTube and stuff. So.
Perfect. And would you mind towards the end of the episode doing one little trick for us? Are you a sleight of hand guy?
I am a sleight of hand guy. I'll come up with something. I'm sitting here. I'll find something for you. I'll think of something.
Great. Well, we'll do that a little later. Now, what I've noticed with some of the magicians that we've talked to in the past, and I've met them, and I'm kind of a big fan of magic. I can't do it worth the life of me, but I love watching it. It seems like a lot of magicians seem to do mentalism, sleight of hand tricks. There seems to be a pattern in card tricks. Do you learn all of that in school? Is it, or do you hone into one specific one?
It depends on the person. Coming from New Zealand, I now live in Canada, but coming from New Zealand, when I grew up doing magic, there was no internet. You learned through books, and you would have to, or in those days, I actually was fortunate to have mentors, which these days, that's gone. I mean, in the original days of magic, in the early days of magic with the Houdini and so on, you know, going back to those times, there used to be mentors, and that's really the best way to if you can learn magic. But that's sort of gone by the side now. Growing up in New Zealand, you had to do everything. So I did birthday parties, I did illusions, I did close-up magic cards, I did everything. Today you can kind of specialize, I think, a bit more. But there's a lot of different fields to magic. There's, as you said, close-up magic. Guys just make their living doing restaurants, or they do trade shows. They do, grand illusions. So there's a mentalism, mind reading. There's a vast range of different types of magic.
And I don't think people realize how much time is involved in practicing these things. How long do you think it took you to learn a really good sleight of hand trick?
It could take years or months. Depends if it's a card move or a coin move. It can take years. I still to this day I practice every day, and I'm always constantly working on new routines. Now you learn the basics of magic, which are the techniques, if you like, and then you get to the level where you then have to put together a show, perhaps, and so you need to learn other aspects of it. So it's not just the technical side, It's also the theatre side of it too. It's just like learning music. I started learning piano when I was 6 years old. So the great thing about learning music since you're six is you get disciplined. So I was disciplined enough to know that I disciplined myself in the respect that I would get up at 6 every morning since I was 6 years old, practice for half an hour before school and after school, but I always saw the end results. So even with magic, if I see a move or want to learn a move, I know that the work I put into it, there will be a great result at the end.
That's fantastic. Now, before we wrap up, we're going to delve into, in part two, we're going to delve more into the psychology of it. Here we're trying to get some of the nuances of a magician. So it requires a lot of time and effort to do a lot of these tricks, and it looks like it. I mean, I've tried myself to try to do sleight of hand coin tricks, and it just took me for weeks, and I barely could even get it done still. So we're going to tackle some other questions in part two, which are going to be the inner desire that we have, again, exploring that inner child and what you've learned about human behavior out there doing magic, and maybe looking at some gender differences. So before we go, do you have a little quick trick you could do?
I'm sitting at my table here, and I'm going to just grab something off the cuff. What have I got? I got nothing. Let me see. I got a deck of cards. Brand new deck of cards. Let's see. Jokers.
We caught Paul off surprise here. So.
That's right. I'm always ready to go. Let's see. I'm just trying to think of what I can do over the Skype. It's a little bit tricky. Oh, there's one. It's a joker. Oh, another one there. What else? Couple there. So that sort of thing, just silly.
That's beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time in part two as we learn more about the psychology of magic. Thank you, everyone, for joining us as well. I hope you enjoyed that show. I thought it was great. I can't wait to see what happens in part two and learn more about human behavior in the world of magic. Thank you again, everyone.